Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. Kevin Hogan here. Let's take a look at our top stories. Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer's retirement setting the stage for a potential SCOTUS battle between Democrats and Republicans. What are both sides' concerns? New York parents head to the Supreme Court. They're challenging the state for taking away religious exemptions for vaccination from school children. It comes as the State Ethics Board sends out subpoenas for pandemic records to learn how conflicts of interest were resolved. A hospital in Massachusetts allegedly denies a heart transplant to an unvaccinated patient. The man's family says he's worried about vaccine side effects, especially heart inflammation and blood clots. And thousands of Canadians showed up to support what's been dubbed a freedom convoy as hordes of truckers rolled toward the capital, Ottawa. It's in protest of the country's cross-border vaccine mandates. A snow-covered bridge in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is now in ruins. That's after its sudden 7 a.m. collapse nearly spelled tragedy for bus passengers traveling over it.
I see a bridge that has collapsed and has severed the roadway, which is a major artery into the Squirrel Hill neighborhood, into Oakland and downtown Pittsburgh. I've driven across this bridge thousands of times, and it's surreal. The entire span of the bridge has collapsed into the park and into the walking trail below.
The bridge spans Forbes Avenue over Frick Park in the Point Breeze neighborhood. The accident prompted rescuers to rappel nearly 150 feet, while others formed a human chain to help rescue bus riders. Officials say 10 were injured, but Pittsburgh Mayor Ed Gainey reported, fortunately, no one was killed. A county executive told reporters at the Post-Gazette the bridge collapse caused a significant natural gas leak, though crews from a local gas company were able to seal it.
Thankfully, the schools were on a 2-hour delay for weather, so the traffic was less than it would have been normally on a normal day. But it's surreal to see this bridge. I'm speechless standing here. It completely collapsed and fell about 60 feet down into to Frick Park here.
The accident struck just hours before a scheduled visit from President Biden, slated to speak about his $1 trillion infrastructure deal. The plan passed in Congress last year. Press Secretary Jen Psaki wrote on Twitter that Biden was informed of the collapse and would go ahead with his trip to Pittsburgh as planned. She noted Biden was grateful to the first responders who rushed to assist and would stay in touch with officials about additional assistance. The cause of the collapse is currently under investigation. City officials said the bridge was inspected in September 2021. Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer's decision to retire gives President Biden his first chance to pick the next justice. While the ideological makeup will likely not change, the decision will impact the country for decades to come. NTD's Jessica Beatty reports.
The White House is warning Republicans not to play games with a Supreme Court nominee by preemptively criticizing President Biden's pick.
The president made very clear he has not made a selection, and if anyone is saying they plan to characterize whoever he nominates after thorough consideration with both parties as radical before they know literally anything about who she is, they just obliterated their own credibility. So our intention is to not play games.
This after Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell said he hoped Biden wouldn't, quote, outsource this important decision to the radical left. Although McConnell did say he would give Biden's pick a fair look. Liberal Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer's retirement gives Biden his first opportunity to make a Supreme Court nomination and fulfill a campaign promise to make history.
The person I will nominate will be someone with extraordinary qualifications, character, experience, and integrity. And that person will be the first Black woman ever nominated to the United States Supreme Court.
Some potential picks include Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, California Supreme Court Justice Leandra Kruger, and South Carolina Judge Michelle Childs, who House Democrat James Clyburn is backing.
I don't know if he's ever met Michelle Childs, but I know this. He has met a lot of people who think very highly of her.
Biden's nomination now expected to come by the end of February. Senator Richard Blumenthal says he and other Democrats believe they should confirm Biden's pick as quickly as possible.
We're going to be prepared to fight ferociously if necessary and hope that Republicans will respect the country's wish that we have a Supreme Court justice as soon as possible.
Breyer's nearly 3 decades on the court will come to a close at the end of the term in June, but he says he will remain seated until his successor is confirmed. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
Parents are challenging the state of New York in the Supreme Court. This after the state took away religious exemptions to the vaccines from school children. And separately, the governor's office is being subpoenaed. It's for information on volunteers during the state's pandemic response. In 2019, New York State repealed a law. That law allowed children to request a religious exemption to vaccines, ones they need to get in order to go to school. But now parents of school children are contesting the state's action. The case was filed in the Supreme Court on January 10th. Petitioners are parents in New York who did not vaccinate their children because of their religious beliefs. They said that vaccines are important to the country, and most people believe in them. But what's equally important to the country is that one's sincerely held religious beliefs be respected, as it is enshrined in the Constitution. The petition reads, "As it happens, a small minority of our population objects to vaccinations on religious grounds. We cannot simply disregard these few just because most of us might believe otherwise or because other legitimate or even vital interests might be at stake." The New York Supreme Court for the County of Albany had dismissed the challenge, and 2 state appellate courts upheld the ruling. And also in New York, the State Ethics Commission is planning to subpoena the governor's office. They're looking for a list of people who worked as volunteers while the state worked to manage the pandemic. The commission is looking for the names of volunteers who were involved in a conflict of interest and descriptions of how those conflicts were resolved. Apparently, the concern revolves around volunteers being paid by employers and not the state of New York. However, there is concern that the subpoenas involve turning over an enormous amount of information, straining staff. A man in Massachusetts is reportedly being denied a heart transplant for refusing to get the COVID-19 vaccine. The hospital defends itself, saying transplant programs have certain requirements that patients need to follow. Here are the details.
DJ Ferguson is a father of 2 in Massachusetts. He is currently experiencing cardiac failure or heart failure and is in need of a heart transplant.
He has met all the transplant criteria to be on the transplant list at Brigham and Women's, and they have made him or listed him as inactive to be a recipient until he gets the COVID vaccine.
The mother says her son is worried about vaccine side effects, which include heart inflammation and blood clots. He has an enlarged heart and has already suffered several blood clots, including a life-threatening one that required surgery.
The only thing that he has been asking the doctors is to provide him or assure him that he will not be negatively impacted with the vaccine, that it will not make his current critical cardiac situation worse. And they cannot provide that information.
Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston declined to comment on Ferguson's case, but they say most transplant programs set similar requirements to improve patients' chances of survival. The mother says her son is not against the vaccine. He just wants clarification that it would not harm him.
I guess what's more devastating is that we are in America, and we do have the means to help my son, and it's just sad that we're even here talking about this. He could have just had a heart.
Ferguson's case is not unique. Last September, a Colorado hospital denied a woman's kidney transplant for being unvaccinated, and an Ohio hospital canceled a man's kidney transplant because his donor was unvaccinated.
Now we take a closer look at the new law in New York City that allows non-citizens to vote in city elections starting January of next year. Recently, the City Board of Elections contacted its state-level counterpart seeking a review to determine whether the law is legal. Prior to this, a group of Republicans filed a lawsuit to block the law, arguing it is illegal. And while some immigration advocates say it's a step in the right direction, others say it will cause tougher laws against immigrants in other parts of the country. Next, we hear from Hans von Spakovsky, who is an election law reform scholar. He gives us his perspective on the constitutionality of the law.
Well, I think that the problem with that is, one, It violates the New York state constitution, requires you to be a citizen to vote in all elections in the state. But second, I think it is fundamentally unfair to the residents who are citizens of the city because frankly, it cheapens citizenship. You know, when you become a citizen as a naturalized citizen, and I know all about that because my parents were immigrants, in addition to the privileges you receive of being able to vote, you take on responsibilities. The aliens and foreigners who are going to be able to vote have not taken on the responsibilities of being a citizen. Therefore, they should not get that privilege, too.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams says he wants New Yorkers to have a say in their government, and that's why he supports this law. Do you think the move is justified?
No, I don't think so. And I think they're also way underestimating the number of individuals who will be affected. They're saying 800,000 because the law applies to supposedly permanent resident aliens and aliens who've been in the city for 30 days who have a work permit. But remember, New York is a sanctuary city with a sanctuary policy. Government officials there to go to great extent to not inquire into the legal status of an alien. So there's absolutely nothing to prevent not just legal aliens, but aliens who are in the country illegally from being able to register and vote. So the number affected could be much larger.
Shifting gears here, Republicans in the Senate Judiciary Committee are potentially setting up a bigger probe into the FBI allegedly targeting parents who speak up at school board meetings. Right. What is your reaction to this?
I think that needs to be done. I was frankly shocked when I saw that Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, had set up a task force to investigate parents who are protesting curriculum changes and things like critical race theory at their local school board meetings. And what was particularly shocking about it was that his task force was made up not just of the FBI, but the criminal division at the U.S. Justice Department, as well as the National Security Division. The National Security Division at the Justice Department, its job is to go after terrorists and foreign spies, and to label parents who are engaging in their First Amendment right to talk about their kids' education, to label them potentially as domestic terrorists, I think is scary that a federal law enforcement agency would do such a thing. I think this does need to be investigated.
Two notes here. One is that Spakovsky alleges the new NYC law would allow foreign reporters to vote as well. Those include ones in Russian and Chinese propaganda outlets. And two, Spakovsky points to the fact that Attorney General Merrick Garland has not dissolved the task force to investigate parents. Therefore, he claims there is no certainty that, quote, this kind of interference is not happening. A convoy of Canadian truckers departed Vancouver for Ottawa this week. Dubbed the Freedom Convoy, its members are speaking out against the country's cross-border vaccine mandates. Thousands have come out in support along the way. Let's take a look.
A procession of Canadian truckers passed northwest of Toronto Thursday as they rolled towards the capital, Ottawa. Known as Freedom Convoy, the parade started as a protest against the country's vaccine mandate for cross-border truck drivers. It's now gathered a large following full of those equally upset about pandemic restrictions.
These mandates need to end. It's ruining families. It's ruining small businesses. It's not even about the vaccines. These truckers are fighting for all of Canada's rights.
The vaccine rule in question took effect January 15th. Under it, truckers not fully vaccinated are required to observe a 14-day quarantine while re-entering Canada from the United States. Doug Wager followed the convoy from Forest Hill, Ontario. He said the policy would seriously affect truckers' livelihoods.
You do one load out and then you come back and you got to sit home for 14 days. That's a lot of revenue lost, a lot of revenue.
Another trucker, James Smoker, noted he's not against vaccines, but still believes the mandate comes at the cost of freedom.
I thought we lived in a free country up until a short period of time. It used to be my body, my choice, and now it's no, it's our body that we're going to put into whatever we want. And that's not the Canada I grew up in.
Supporters cheered on both sides of the road, waving signs and Canadian flags as the trucks pulled through the area.
We see the reactions across the country of people on every overpass, on the side of the roads. You can see here, there's thousands of people here, and it's incredible. I'm very proud to be Canadian today.
By this Saturday, over 10,000 truckers will gather on Parliament Hill for a demonstration. They'll join from all over the country. Organizers have insisted that the protest is peaceful. NTD News, Toronto.
The truckers' protest has also garnered some celebrity attention. Tesla CEO Elon Musk posted a series of tweets Thursday to show support. Musk was named Time Magazine's Person of the Year last month. He said he was vaccinated himself, but still opposed the mandates. A key inflation measure rose last year at the fastest pace since 1982. The Bureau of Economic Analysis says inflation was up 5.8% between December 2020 to December 2021. Energy prices climbed nearly 30%, and food prices rose 5.7%. American incomes also rose with inflation, but at a slower pace. Personal incomes increased 0.3%, or $70 billion last month. Meanwhile, consumer spending declined in December for the first time in months. The pandemic is still wreaking havoc on almost every business worldwide, including the wedding industry. From shipping delays to increasing costs, here's more on why future brides should plan early when it comes to their big day.
Dresses, smiles, tears, and laughter. Ah, yes. It's the sound of one of the most exciting moments for brides planning their weddings. While this future wife is all smiles, some haven't been so lucky.
The worst part of planning my wedding and leading up to my wedding was the wedding dress.
It took 2021 newlywed Chloe Buckle about 5 months to get her dress, about a month longer than she anticipated.
So I actually picked mine up 2 days before I had to fly out for my wedding.
Since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, worker shortages have disrupted the supply chain, causing shipping delays and low product supply for several items, including wedding dresses.
It goes all the way back, right, to raw material availability. COVID's had its impact worldwide.
The CEO of David's Bridal says his company is changing their supply chain method to keep up with the demand.
We front-loaded a lot of inventory production, a lot of purchases.
And with more couples getting married in the new year, bridal retailers like Winnie Couture are seeing a lot more say yes to the dress.
Now that it's a little more open and people are able to have their big weddings, we're definitely seeing a surge of brides coming in.
And because of this bridal boom, those delays could continue well into 2022, according to the National Bridal Retailers Association. The president of the association says before the pandemic, it would take 5 to 7 months for a bride to get a dress. Now she says she's seeing a 300% increase in shipping times.
The manufacturers and the designers that are creating these beautiful wedding dresses are experiencing supply chain issues.
While there are delays, bridal retailers say they're taking extra steps to make sure brides get their dresses on time and even early. But the advice for newly engaged brides is consistent.
Get out there early.
Right now, there's no time.
It's never too early to find the dress.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott is inviting attorneys general from 12 states to the southern border for a 2-day border summit. He's renewing criticism of the Biden administration for failing to secure the border. He also accuses TikTok of helping human traffickers.
The Texas governor and the state's attorney general invited 12 attorneys general from across the country to tour the southern border and witness the severity of the border crisis. The governor on Thursday briefed them on 2 major problems: human trafficking and illegal drugs.
Cartels in Mexico are using TikTok to advertise to recruit smugglers in Texas and San Antonio, Houston, and other cities in Texas and maybe some other states. TikTok should be ashamed, condemned, and have a legal action brought against it for promoting human trafficking in Texas and the United States of America.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection performed enforcement actions on over 1.9 million illegal border crossers last year. That's 3 times more than the number in 2020. The Texas Department of Public Safety has also helped the Border Patrol arrest illegal border crossers and trespassers.
We've had over 10,000 arrests we've made, criminal arrests, and criminal trespass, over 2,500 criminal trespass arrests, which are embedded in that. We've had, between ourselves and National Guard and game wardens working together, we've had over 196, almost over 200,000 by now, individuals that were referred to, been apprehended and referred to Border Patrol.
The Texas governor wants to remind the attorneys general that the border crisis impacts not just border communities, but the entire country.
As law enforcement officers from across the country, we join together because we all believe in something that the country was founded upon, and that is the rule of law. The rule of law that Joe Biden has abandoned, the rule of law that we as law enforcement officers and governors are going to step up and address.
The two-day summit is taking place Thursday and Friday in the Rio Grande sector of the border. Texas officials are giving participants tours of the border wall and the Rio Grande River. And the attorneys general are meeting with top officials from law enforcement agencies, including the Department of Homeland Security and Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Video footage has emerged showing federal contractors flying illegal immigrants into a New York City suburb overnight after they were released from the southern border last year. 51 minutes of body cam footage was obtained by Rob Astorino, a former county executive in Westchester County, New York. The video was published by the New York Post. It shows migrants who were flown in under the cover of darkness from the southern border. They land in White Plains, New York, before getting bused to other parts of the country. The footage comes from the body cam of Police Sergeant Michael Hamborski. Hamborski appears confused and can be heard questioning federal contractors overseeing the migrant transfers. One contractor explains they have to operate in secrecy and not draw media attention. Another says if the information gets out, people will know the government is betraying the American people. Astorino is running for governor of New York. He told Fox News the government continues to lie about the border crisis. NTD has reached out to the White House for comment on this, but we haven't heard back yet. The Supreme Court cleared the way for the execution of a death row inmate in Alabama. In a 5-4 decision, the nation's highest court reversed a lower court opinion Thursday. Matthew Reeves was executed by lethal injection at Alabama's Holman Prison less than 2 hours later. The lower court had agreed to block the execution because Reeves sought to be executed by an alternate method, nitrogen gas. But the justices granted Alabama's request to reinstate the execution in an after-hours order Thursday. Reeves was convicted of the robbery and murder of Willie Johnson in 1996. He argued that he did not want to be put to death by Alabama's lethal injection protocol and instead wanted nitrogen gas. But the state claimed he had missed a deadline to make the decision. The father of a reporter shot on live television in 2015 is running for Congress. 24-year-old Allison Parker was gunned down by a former employee of the TV station that she worked for. Her father, Andy Parker, is seeking the Democratic nomination in Virginia's 5th Congressional District. Parker is a longtime gun control advocate and supporter of greater regulation of the tech industry. The district he is running in has been controlled by Republicans since 2011. A federal judge is temporarily halting a rule in South Dakota. The rule would make it harder for women to get abortion pills. It's from an executive order by Governor Kristi Noem. U.S. District Judge Karen Schreier granted the request from Planned Parenthood. The rule was set to go into effect yesterday. It would require women to consult with a doctor in person twice before they can get abortion pills. Planned Parenthood reacts to the judge's decision, saying they're, quote, relieved that South Dakotans' access to medication abortion remains unchanged for right now. The governor says the rule is necessary for women's safety and that she's not backing down from making it into law. About 40% of all abortions in the U.S. are now done through abortion pills. Weather forecasts predict a severe winter storm to hit the Northeast, but what exactly can we expect and how should we prepare? NTD's Chenny Wu spoke with a meteorologist from the National Weather Service.
The National Weather Service has released warnings that starting Friday, much of the Northeast could be hit by a bomb cyclone, a winter storm that intensifies very rapidly. Snow and blizzard conditions are expected to last until Saturday night. Brian Jackson, a meteorologist at the National Weather Service, says most of the eastern seaboard will likely be impacted.
We are expecting from the Carolinas all the way up through Maine. So it'll be tens of millions of people affected to some extent.
He says parts of southeast New England will be hit the hardest. That includes Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. New York's Long Island will also be impacted, as well as eastern Pennsylvania, which includes Philadelphia.
A true blizzard-like condition and 50 miles an hour wind wind-driven snow and more than a foot of it is pretty extreme.
Adding that a storm this size happens on average once a year. Jackson says areas with heavy snow may experience scattered power outages that could last a few days, and people should stock up on groceries and other necessities in advance.
So in terms of preparations, those really should be done today.
He reminds people on the East Coast to pay attention to their local weather forecast. Milder weather is expected for the rest of the country. Chenny Wu, NTD News.
If you need to get to the Northeast, you better get there before Saturday. Airlines have already canceled 1,500 flights to major East Coast hubs for Saturday. A massive nor'easter is expected to dump heavy snow and produce near hurricane force winds in the region over the weekend. It's not clear yet exactly which area will be hit the hardest. For now, Boston's Logan Airport is the most heavily impacted, with more than 200 Saturday flights canceled. Forecasters say storm conditions will affect about 75 million people. Train spotters in Chicago captured a moment on Monday when fires lit up the train tracks. It's a method regularly used to avoid disrupting services during the cold winter months. As temperatures drop under 30 degrees Fahrenheit, train tracks can freeze, which stops the trains from moving. But lighting small fires along the tracks helps avoid that issue. So it's done regularly in the colder months. According to the National Weather Service, lake effect snow is expected to develop across northwest Indiana. They say several inches of snow is possible across Lake County. Coming up, many scammers target senior citizens by posing as their grandchildren in phone calls. A grandma in New York State recently helped police arrest such a scammer by outsmarting him. Stay tuned to find out more. And you may have watched curling during the Winter Olympics, but do you know what it works? The Wharf in Washington, D.C. is offering visitors a chance to try their hand at it. Stay tuned for more.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, CEO of MyPillow. Cancel culture has not only affected myself and MyPillow, but also millions of you out there. My employees and I want to personally thank each and every one of you for all your support. At MyPillow, we have hundreds of products now, including my new slippers, bathrobes, sleepwear, and my new beds. We are offering the best products ever for the best prices ever. For example, we have the standard size MyPillows, regularly $69.98, now only $19.98 with your promo code. Or you can get custom fit with my premium queen size MyPillows, regularly $79.98, now just $29.98. Or my king size, regularly $89.98, now just $34.98. So go to mypillow.com now and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below to receive these exclusive offers. Thank you and God bless.
Senior citizens often have to deal with scammers that pose as their grandchildren and ask for money. Many seniors have fallen for such scams, unfortunately, but a quick-thinking grandma in New York State recently helped police bust such scammers. Here's the story.
Someone calls me back.
73-year-old Jean Ebert is a retired 911 dispatcher in Nassau County, New York. Last Thursday, she got a strange phone call from a man claiming to be her grandson. The man said he was in jail and needed her help to pay his $8,000 bail. But Ebert doesn't have a grown male grandchild. She later got a phone call from another man posing as a court officer and then another claiming to be her grandson's lawyer.
So I make up a name and I give it to him, and he says to me, hold on. About 5 minutes later, he comes back. I see him in the system. I'm like, oh my God, I just made up this name. He sees him in the system. So I'm playing along, and he says to me, we're trying to get him a lawyer, and we'll have the lawyer call you back.
Once Ebert knew the scammers knew her address, she called the police. Eventually, a man showed up at her door to take the money, and Nassau County police officers successfully arrested the man, 28-year-old Joshua Estrella Gomez, and charged him with attempted grand larceny. The grandma cautions others to stay alert and do the best they can to protect their identities by not sharing too much information.
Don't underestimate what these people can do when they're trying to scam you. I can see now how people could fall for this. I've heard from people all over the country who say, my mother fell for this twice. 5 years apart, she fell for this again. So I can understand they are too good and they know too much about you, and it scares me.
A court hearing for Gomez is scheduled for February 3rd.
The Winter Olympics is less than a week away, and one of the events in the Games will be curling. You may have watched it on TV, but do you know the rules? Some Olympic fans in D.C. got a chance to take a stab at it, and it turns out to be pretty hard. Let's take a look.
The Wharf District in Washington, D.C. is offering an event called Curling and Cocktails.
I'm gonna do it like they do in the Olympics, I hope.
Residents get to take to the ice and play a winter sport that many have watched, but few have tried.
I watch it every year in the Olympics, and every year I think I could do that. And it turns out I cannot. I tried really hard. It's harder than it looks.
Her friend agreed, having taken a painful tumble on the ice.
I think my knees are going to be a little sore in the morning, but I think it's a great lesson in friction or lack thereof. And I think it's all good. I think we'll all be okay. I don't think anything's too hurt or damaged.
Curling is related to bowls, bocce, and shuffleboard, and was first played in late medieval Scotland. The Wharf introduced this event during the last Winter Olympics, which took place in 2018. And the event proved popular.
I know everybody thinks of Olympics when they think curling, and that's when we first started, was the last Winter Olympics. It's just a really fun way to get out on the ice, especially if you're not inclined to skate. You can come out here and goof around.
Each team has one player to throw the stone and two teammates to sweep the ice. The goal is to deliver the stone as close as possible to the center of the target area. The team with the stone closest to the center scores a point. A match takes place over 10 so-called ends, with each team having 8 stones per end.
Now that I know everything there is to know about curling, I will absolutely pay more attention when the Olympics roll around.
Participants say the experience has given them a newfound appreciation for the professional teams.
Cowbells rang and tiny U.S. flags waved inside an airplane hangar at Los Angeles International Airport as the U.S. Olympic team departed for the Beijing Olympics Thursday. A Delta Airlines charter flight carried about 200 athletes, coaches, and trainers for the Games, which are scheduled to start next week. Olympic athletes are facing strict COVID-19 testing hurdles as organizers seek to catch any infections early to keep the virus at bay. A positive test could mean sitting out the Games, perhaps even if they're no longer contagious. Everyone inside the Olympic bubble will get daily throat swabs for PCR lab tests. Anyone confirmed to be positive will have to isolate until cleared for discharge. The U.S. has said it will not send dignitaries to the Games, which open February 4th. This in protest over the Chinese Communist Party's detention of over more than 1 million Uyghur Muslims in the Xinjiang region, along with crackdowns on human rights elsewhere in the country. The boycott does not prevent U.S. athletes from taking part in the Games. The Federal Communications Commission votes to block China Unicom from the U.S. market. It adds to a growing list of Chinese telecommunication carriers banned from the U.S. The action means that all 3 of China's leading wireless carriers are now barred. In 2021, China Telecom Americas was banned, and a few years earlier, China Mobile was restricted from accessing the U.S. market. The latest decision gives China Unicom 60 days to cease domestic and international services. The agency first granted China Unicom Americas operating authority 2 decades ago, But the FCC chairwoman says the national security landscape has shifted since then. She says evidence shows Chinese state-owned telecommunication carriers pose a real security threat, and a cybersecurity report from December 2020 shows that China Unicom was behind a state-directed mass surveillance effort on the phones of U.S. citizens. Still to come, Ukraine organizes emergency bomb drills. It comes after forced evacuations following numerous hoax bomb threats. Ukraine blames Russia for the false threats. Find out more here on NTD News.
At The Nation Speaks, we don't just scratch the surface. We want to go wide and deep. Our viewers come away with a much richer understanding of the issues of the day. We really make a big effort to bring on different voices onto the show. We don't just talk to experts and newsmakers, which of course are extremely important, but we also want to hear from the American people. So the people who are impacted by the policies and issues that we're talking about, because what they have to say is just as important to the national conversation.
Talk to doctor now and share it. Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it. Gonna get it, gonna slip it, gonna cuff it. Check it, talk to doctor and share it. Gonna get it, gonna slip it, gonna cuff it. Check it, talk to doctor and share it.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. High blood pressure silently affects millions of Americans. Staying on top of your blood pressure is as simple as these 4 easy steps. Self-monitoring is power. Visit manageyourbp.org to learn more.
Ukrainian law enforcement is organizing emergency drills after a series of hoax bomb alerts forced the evacuation of schools in the capital city of Kiev, as well as in other cities.
How much explosive can this fluffy toy owl hold? This is what this Ukrainian bomb disposal serviceman asked astonished children in an emergency drill class in Kiev. Law enforcement officers organized the training after a series of hoax bomb alerts forced evacuation of schools in the capital and other cities. The serviceman showed the class video clips of explosions and scattering shrapnel, artillery and mortar shells, grenades and mines, as well as improvised explosive devices, some resembling a box of chocolates and a mobile phone case. Then a siren went off at the school. Everyone rose to evacuate. All of this is a stark reminder of the peculiar state Ukraine currently finds itself in, neither at war nor at peace. Kiev blames the hoax alerts on Russia, already waging what they call a hybrid war against its former Soviet satellite. Ukraine's security service says they sow anxiety and panic among the public. It had recorded more than 300 bomb threats so far this year, compared to 1,100 for the whole of 2021. The Kremlin did not respond to a request for comment. Kiev says Russia is threatening a full-blown invasion by amassing more than 100,000 troops near the border. Moscow denies this. Russian officials have blamed Ukraine for similar series of bomb hoaxes that have forced schools, shopping centers, and kindergartens to evacuate tens of thousands of people. The West has threatened Russia with severe sanctions if it invades Ukraine. NATO has put its forces on standby.
6 men accused of involvement in a 2019 jewel heist appear in court. Their crime was allegedly committed at a museum housing one of Europe's greatest art collections. The stolen treasure's whereabouts remain a mystery. In the early hours of November 25, 2019, thieves forced their way into Germany's Green Vault Museum. They got away with at least 3 sets of early 18th century jewelry. It contained more than 4,300 diamonds with an estimated value of over $125 million. However, the 41-carat Dresden green diamond was away on loan to New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art at the time. That artifact is one of the most well-known in the collection. The treasures of the Green Vault survived World War II Allied bombing raids, but then the Soviet Union took them as war booty. They were returned to the German city of Dresden in 1958, and now, 2 years and 3 months after the latest heist, police are still unaware of the treasure's whereabouts. Are you waiting for a letter or a mail to arrive? Well, a woman in Lithuania just got a letter from a former pen pal 51 years after it was sent. The woman was only 12 years old when the letter was sent from Poland in March 1970. But now in her 60s, the woman says she no longer remembers the former pen pal. The letter, together with 17 others, were discovered at an old post office last summer. Construction workers were refurbishing the building when the letters fell out of a ventilation hole in a wall. It's likely that an unscrupulous postal worker hid the letters after he searched them for cash or valuables. Postal workers have spent months looking for houses because street names and numbering have since changed. They were only able to find 5 recipients, and some have already passed away. A 100-year-old man won't let old age keep him from his passion, cycling. Veteran Norman Gregory cycles 100 miles every week around the English countryside. Here's the story.
Everybody knows Norman in Bury St. Edmunds. His high-visibility jacket and bike are a familiar sight on these roads. He cycles 100 miles every week, 5,000 miles a year, around the sleek Suffolk lanes. Today, the village is out in force to wish him a very happy 100th birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
So you're a bit of a local celebrity.
I am. I'm the village hero.
Life has not always been as calm as this quiet Suffolk village. Norman served with Bomber Command in World War II and became a prisoner of war when his plane was shot down over Germany. During his time in captivity, he spent a lot of time on the road, but on foot rather than on his beloved bicycle.
We were on the road 21 days, marching between 15 and 20 kilometers every day, and there was a meter of snow on the ground, and it froze night and day.
Those days are long behind him. Now when he takes to the road, it is very much on his own terms, and he avoids bad weather.
I still enjoy it, unless the weather conditions suddenly change. Like you can't cope on a bike with a wind of 50 or 60 miles an hour. All I can say is the freedom of the open road.
At 100 years old, he has no plans to give up his bike anytime soon. So what can any budding cyclists learn from him?
Well, if you're not used to cycling, my top tip is, for goodness sake, don't overdo it.
Expert advice from someone with almost a century of experience.
And yet another inspiring story from a British centenarian. Most people eagerly await retirement in their 60s, but not Beryl Carr. At 100 years old, the hospital volunteer shows no signs of slowing down. Here's more.
Can I have a cup of coffee? Coffee?
Beryl Carr has been volunteering at Ealing Hospital in London for the last 18 years and works at the hospital's Friends Cafe. Although she was born near the hospital, she later moved away, but then returned to be near her daughter after her husband died. Carr, who celebrated her 100th birthday in January, said the volunteering keeps her going.
It's my lifeline, and I enjoy coming, and it's a worthwhile job. I'm helping people that's not as fortunate as I am, or as well as I am.
And her commitment and friendliness has won her many fans at the hospital.
I think she's a complete inspiration. Many of us look at her. She's always got a smile on her face, a swagger as she walks. And you come back from a clinic or a ward round, you're absolutely tired, and she just inspires you as soon as you see her.
It gives me a lot of motivation
thinking that, with hard times going on with the COVID and all that, and if Beryl can do it, I think, like I said, it motivates all of us.
However, Carr made it clear she wouldn't be sharing the secrets to her longevity.
If I told you, it wouldn't be a secret. That's my answer.
A former circus performer has switched from training big cats for entertainment to rescuing ones that have been neglected from zoos and circuses in Russia. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more.
Meet Aston. He's a resident of House of Tiger, a shelter for big cats in Siberia, founded by former animal trainer Dmitry Kim and his veterinarian wife Yana Olenik. They rescue animals from domestic zoos and circuses across Russia. When they found Aston, he was sick and frightened.
We were on tour in the Caucasus, and since my wife is a veterinarian, people asked us to help them with animals that were dying. Predators, tiger cubs. My wife could not stay indifferent. Oh, what kind of crocodile is eating me? And she said, we must buy out these animals, help them. So we handed over our car to a pawn shop and bought Aston, our very first cat.
Kim has found a lot of owners don't care for their animals properly, often treating them as simply a source of income or a toy, particularly if they're crossbreeds.
They are hybrid or a cross, that is. They do not belong to any kind, like the Amur or Bengali tigers, that is. This is a cross, and they do not have a breeding value, so they are not needed. For nature, they are not returnable. Such animals most often find themselves in difficult situations because no one protects them.
Kim had to sell a vehicle again to buy his second tiger, Rolls-Royce, from the south of Russia. Being a big lover of cars, the ex-trainer has named all his cats after car brands. So the shelter is also home to tigers Honda, Infiniti, and Tesla.
Some of them love people, some are calm with people, some maintain absolute neutrality, some just like to communicate with people. It is a big delusion that predators are fearless animals. In fact, these are the largest fearful cats that you can imagine. That is, something new always causes them fear.
Kim and his wife used to perform in a circus and then ran their own show, but the pandemic pushed them to finally open the shelter as most performances were canceled. The couple has plans to move to a new territory with a larger area, where they can accommodate more animals that need help. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Scientists have detected what appears to be a star, but its never-before-seen behavior is drawing questions. They suspect it might be an exotic astrophysical object that until now has only been a hypothesis. Scientists say it emits light pulses at an unusual rate. The astronomer leading the study called its visible brightness shocking. The object was first spotted using the Murchison Wide Field Array Telescope in the Australian outback. Researchers observed it for 2 months in 2018. That's when they noticed it unleashed huge bursts of energy, roughly 3 times per hour. Study leader Natasha Hurley-Walker says pulsars emit energy a few times a second, while exploding stars change over the course of months. So finding a star that gives off energy at this interval was unexpected. Scientists previously thought if something like this did exist, it would prove impossible to detect. Some people might feel uncomfortable coming out to see a grand performance during this pandemic, but the audience of this classical Chinese dance performance says it's exactly what they needed, especially during this pandemic.
I think you should take us all over the country and the world. It should be seen by everybody.
Throughout the week, Shen Yun continues to perform in various cities around the world, touching the hearts of people from all walks of life.
It was absolutely beautiful. We loved every minute of it.
It was a rare experience, touching, heartfelt, very engaging, and a glimpse into another culture that was really great.
So vivid, so alive, so beautifully done. I am just absolutely enthralled with everyone. I'm honored to be here.
Shen Yun features all original compositions with a unique mix of classical, Eastern, and Western instruments.
The orchestra sounded amazing. The music was dreamlike, the live orchestra was incredible, and the singers were fantastic.
The music was extremely nice and soothing. The dance was very graceful. I think it was very reflective of the Chinese culture.
Just felt so serene, and I like the word divine.
In ancient China, music was a way to ascend spiritually, and it also offered entertainment. Refining one's character and seeking harmony with heaven was a natural part of the artistic process. Shen Yun artists take this process, striving to create music that carries pure energy and brings a sense of well-being to the audience. Audiences say the performances give them hope, especially nowadays.
The two-string
yes,
wood
that
instrument
was magnificent.
Yeah, I felt it in my heart. I felt it in my being, direct from the instrument into my soul.
Yes, I was going to say the same thing, into your soul. You feel the music in your soul, and I think it absolutely can heal.
And there's hope, and there's joy, and there's peace.
Unity.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Very emotional, very spiritual, and you come away from it with a very wonderful feeling, a lot about the hope of the future.
I'm getting more of the message of love and love each other and help each other in time of need and respect each other for the values and what they stand for.
The performance was very moving. I learned a lot from the show that I will take with me into my life. To be patient, to be sensible, to appreciate life, and to realize that I'm going back to my roots.
Anything like this is very helpful in bringing people back to a normal way of living.
Especially in this pandemic, this is exactly what we needed.
Thanks for watching. At NTD, we're honored to be your source for the news. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.